Warp drive active.
You took out that jump drive.
Seals are tight, we're docked.
I'm working hard, Captain.
Hello there. You keep installing new cool things in your ship. It's like Christmas. Sure. Thanks so much. Bye.
What did you need?
I have things for you. Grav drive spinning down.
Ship Frontier. This is United Colonies Security. Maintain course and prepare to be scanned.
Jump complete.
drive active.
Counting. Wasted bullets.
Clamps released.
Yes.
Good to be on the boat.
Well.
Hey, how are you?
Switching over to
Welcome to
standard.
recharge space. We're gonna do a quick scan for contraband, and you can be on your way.
Our scan detected Copy that. Stay on course while we escort you in.
yourself pretty useful around the ship, Cora.
I have, Dad. I want to be as good a co-pilot for the captain as I am for you.
Well, you're doing a great job, Stringbean. I'm proud of you. What do you say we get you a new outfit next time we're planetside?
It still fits, Dad. And I love it. Now, a new book.
Corco, that room of yours better be clean next time I go in there.
I'll get to it, Dad. I promise.
This ain't my getting around to it tone. You understand?
Ugh. Fine, okay. I'm going.
How you doing, Sweet Pea?
Well, I'm okay. But I'd be a lot better if...
Let me guess, you'd be a lot better if you had a bigger book allowance.
You know me so well, Dad. So, what do you say?
you're not pestering the cat.
You think I'm a pest?
Oh, never. Poor choice of words. You being nice to the crew, too?
Of course.
So this book collection fund I heard about?
Don't you always say, don't listen to rumors?
Stop in the name of the law. Stand down now, or
Beginning
you will
combat.
be neutralized.
I suggest you refrain from interfering.
You don't want to pick.
Corco, that room of yours better be clean next time I go in there.
I'll get to it, Dad. I promise.
Is something amiss?
Oh, fine, okay. I'm going.
What's happening, darling?
I must confess, the hum of a grav drive makes me feel alive.
Is there a way to go faster than the speed of light? And none of that grav tech speeding?
Board is clear. We're docked.
Warp drive active.
Need some work done? Anything I can help you with? Okay, no problem. Sure, have at it. Okay, no.
Only a matter of time before I get promoted out of here.
Separation complete.
Warp drive active. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Over the years, Jackson became a constant in the Cassio family. Dominic Jr. remembers how he drew them all in.
He was like the kind of like the fun uncle. You know, like he just was always fun to be around. And it was always a good time. Just going to toy stores and amusement parks and all this stuff with him. It was just always like a good time.
Wow, we're gonna make a nice party. You can't believe what we're gonna make.
In the early days, for Sister Marie and her brothers, being in Michael Jackson's inner circle was pure joy.
Are you ready?
As they grew,
What is it? Ah, my day just got a whole lot brighter.
They took countless trips on tour as Michael's special guests, flying by
trouble
private
seemed to
jet,
share.
meeting world leaders, diplomats, and superstars.
What I remember, my first memories was being on the history tour, traveling to many countries with him. Wow, I'm here with Michael Jackson, touring the world, seeing the mobs of the fans. It was a pretty extraordinary situation and experience.
You must have felt like you were, part celebrity yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, that we definitely had a false sense of reality then, because he made us feel like we were his family, his kids, his.
Let me guess. You missed me and you couldn't stay away. I wanted to talk to you. The Starborns. Yes, you do. This. Oh, we could learn. I wouldn't say I was afraid. Can't be a coincidence. We know they're certainly hostile. Damn. Obvious. Their name alone. Whatever the case. Exactly. We must use. Thank you. It's funny. I'd remain this encounter. Although I'm flattered that you think of me. Well then, I've certainly. Just do be careful if you cross paths with these star.
Shields up! Lost one of our weapons! Get it back up!
Everything.
What was also extraordinary was the bond built between Michael and the Cassios. As their lives became more and more intertwined, Dominic and Connie entrusted their children into Michael's care. Dominic Jr. was just 9 when he had his first solo stay with the King of Pop.
I spent a week alone with him at Neverland.
How were your parents convinced to allow you to do that?
When you have the biggest superstar in the world in the 80s that wants to be your friend, you're vulnerable, easily manipulated in that sense.
But as As you'll see, the Cassios claim grooming and manipulation set the stage for grotesque and sustained sexual abuse, not against just one, but all of them.
God, this was the worst thing to live with. Imagine your kid.
Warp drive active. Warp drive active. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
You're no match for us.
Landing site locked. Take us in. It's Alldayerrydaybaby.
Any troubles you need to share?
Inside's clear. All green here.
Warp drive active.
You have my attention. The two of us make quite the pair, eh?
Ahoy, Captain!
Warp drive active. To give the command to a drone requires you to have an active target.
brief history of time. If you find any addition, any at all, I will be your friend, like, forever.
You know, the way you handle things, not bad. Not bad.
Oh, my day just got a whole lot brighter.
Yes, you need me?
Warp drive active. Warp drive active. Warp drive active.
Hey, good to see you.
Yes?
If something's on your mind, you can tell me.
Warp drive active.
Sometimes I just want to turn off the grab drive so we can float around.
Captain, do you require my assist? I have no objections. Captain, all systems are operational. Please proceed to press pedal to pedal. Invoking tube. Combat simulation complete. Objective. Parameters updated. I believe we are no more. We have eradicated all nearby enemies. Greetings, Captain. Goodbye. Lowering reference for get variable.
auxiliary. Resuming paused processes.
It would be advisable to
Comparative
leave
analysis
some
of
things
Delta
behind.
units and auxiliaries. Strength level. Analysis of auxiliary human minimum.
Hello, Captain. Goodbye for now. I do not understand your attachment to all these
degrades
objects.
with increased carry weight.
Warp drive active. To give the command to a drone requires you to have an active target.
Your spinal health will be compromised by carrying so many items.
Any day you make it through is a victory in my book.
Dad, can I have a pet?
A pet? We live on a starship, Cora. Pets and starships don't always mix so well.
Aw, come on, please. I need somebody to talk to while I'm on the ship by myself.
Give him an inch. We'll see, Gumdrop.
I'm here for you, my love.
Man, the galaxy's too big to be stuck in the same place. Glad to see you.
Nice clean dock, Captain.
Warp
What's
drive
happening,
active.
darling?
Only a matter of time before If there's
I
anything
get
I can do for
promoted
you,
out of here.
yes, of course. How may the trade of... Yes, of course.
Warp drive active. Permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Good to see you. Was there something you needed? By all means.
If you're ever in New Atlantis, mind putting in a good word for me? I don't think my messages to SSNN are getting through. I try not to trade in gossip, but if you haven't... Why, certainly. Reporters are just... It's canon. Well, I certainly... The Vanguard pilot, you know, So I've been... Well, I certainly... The Vanguard pilot, you know, Thank you for the kind words of... Farewell, then.
Warp drive active.
I really did think this place would...
May I be of service? I hope we have what you... Was there something you needed? Certainly.
Warp drive active.
Yes, you need me?
Your ship smells so much better than Dad's? Like, a lot.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
That's a clean break. Ready to go.
Autopilot engaged. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Navigational feedback checks out.
Approaching
We're in the right place.
Stargate.
Thank you. Pick up the hail. Hold them. We're here to collect them. Winking. Oh, you must be out of your mind. All right, you can go.
Autopilot jumping.
Ready for touchdown.
Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate.
Hey, we've got to talk about the real reason that Trump's South Carolina push failed after a Republican senator broke rank on the gerrymandering fight, how one Joe Rogan podcast sparked a surge in unproven cancer drugs, why Trump's Beijing moment has everyone losing it, and what got exposed in Kash Patel's Senate meltdown. We're talking about all of that on today's brand new, extra-large Philip DeFranco show. You daily dive into the news, so buckle up, hit that like button, and let's just jump into it, starting with this. Every time one of Trump's goons testifies in front of Congress, whether it's Pete Hegseth,
Your hatred for President Trump blinds you.
Or Pam Bondi.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader.
RFK Jr.
If that's not in fact
Those are crocodile tears.
It always seems to be a complete and utter clown show. And so we really can't be surprised when Trump's FBI director Kash Patel, when he just went before the Senate Appropriations Committee, that the results were the same. Now, officially, he was there to answer questions about the $12.5 billion budget that his agency is asking for, but that's really not where things focused on. Right? Instead, what you had was the committee's top Democrat, Chris Van Hollen, taking the opportunity to grill him about recent reporting that he is frequently drunk, passed out, inexplicably absent, or impossible to reach.
So there have been no occasions when your security detail had difficulty waking or locating you, is that right?
Nope, it's a total farce. I don't even know where you get this stuff, but it doesn't make it credible because you say so.
I'm not saying it, Director Patel. It's been written and documented.
You are literally saying it.
No, I'm saying that these are reports, Director Patel.
No,
and
unlike
I
your
will
baseless
say,
reports,
Director
the only person
Patel,
that was slinging margaritas in El Salvador on the taxpayer dollar with a convicted gangbanging rapist was you.
Now for some much needed context, I think.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Unwise to remain hostile toward us.
Approaching Stargate.
Catastrophic damage. Captain, the enemy is here. I am uncertain why you believed conflict with us was advisable.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Will likely end the enemy has dropped out of our view.
Beginning combat.
I am no longer detecting signs of life from the enemy.
Approaching Stargate. Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active. Approaching Stargate. Autopilot jumping. Warping to Approaching Stargate. Approaching station. Docking permission requested. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted. Autopilot disabled. Waypoint reached.
Nice clean dock there.
Dad, do you think Solomon Coe would have liked me?
Sure. Everybody likes you, don't they?
Any troubles you need to share?
Well, if you listen to your grandma.
The so-called gang-banging rapist that he is referring to there is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Right? He's that Maryland father who was mistakenly deported to a Salvadoran mega prison early last year. I know it's been a while, but if you don't remember, first you had the Trump administration refusing to bring him back, then they brought him back, but they charged him with human smuggling, and now they're trying to deport him again. Right? And last year, after Van Hollen visited him at prison, you had two different photos of the meeting circulating online. One that was put out by Van Hollen showing the pair sitting at a table, really nothing out of the ordinary, and then another put out by El Salvador's right-wing president showing them sitting there, glasses on the table, claiming that they were sipping margaritas in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. The key thing, Van Hollen says that those glasses were put there by Salvadoran officials and that neither he nor Abrego Garcia touched them. He even added that Abrego Garcia's glass was deliberately made less full so it looked like he had been drinking from it. With Van Hollen firing back on Twitter saying glasses were placed in front of us but we did not drink them. I know that may be a confusing concept for Director Patel, but back to the hearing.
You know, the only person that ran up a $7,000 bar tab in Washington, D.C. at the lobby bar was you.
Okay. A little more context. What he's referring to there is an event for over 50 of Van Hollen's staff where the catering bill totaled around $7,000. And actually after this hearing, you had Patel posting a Federal Election Commission filing to back it up. Though to that, you had Van Hollen respond, "You got me. I catered a holiday reception for my staff with campaign, not taxpayer dollars. Now let's see your receipts." Right, so many seeing that as a false equivalency deflection attempt from Patel, but then getting back to Patel and Van Hollen.
During the day, that's you. This is the ultimate example of hypocrisy.
Chairman.
I will not be tarnished by baseless allegations.
Let me ask you a question.
Media.
So let me ask you this. Are you willing to take the test, it's called the audit test, that members of our active duty military and others take to determine whether they have a drinking problem?
I'll take any test you're willing to take.
I will take it, Director Patel. I'll take it. Ready to take it? Yes or no?
Let's go.
And yeah, Van Hollen was serious because he apparently took the test and later posted his results online. But it's only 10 questions that have asked stuff like, how much do you drink? Have you ever felt unable to stop drinking? Have you ever felt guilt or remorse after drinking? Van Hollen said that he had 2 to 3 drinks a week, but answered never to all the other questions. With him then adding, given all the lies he told yesterday, I imagine he'll fudge the numbers here, but let's see yours, Director Patel. With that said, back to the hearing we go, because Van Hollen also pressed Patel on reports that he fired a group of Iran experts shortly before Trump went to war with the country.
Were the group fired, did it include people who were Iran experts?
No.
Did it include people who were involved in counter-espionage activities with respect to Iran?
I don't have the list in front of me.
So you don't know whether or not you fired people with counter-executive experience? You don't know the answer to that question.
I terminated anyone and everyone that weaponized law enforcement.
Then at another point, you had Senator Patty Murray forcing him to answer for reports that the FBI is investigating the Atlantic journalist who wrote the article about his alleged excessive drinking.
This FBI is targeting no journalists. The Obama and Biden administrations targeted dozens of journalists, sent out 1,200 interviews.
I didn't ask you about the Biden administration. I asked if you can commit to this committee that no agent hours have been pulled from other work.
We have not done so.
And then finally, at the end of this thing, after Patel made all these claims and denials, Van Hollen, he hit him with one last question that sparked yet another fight.
My final question to you, Mr. Director, is do you know that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that? That's my last question.
I have not lied to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
Lied to Congress is you.
I'm not testifying here, sir, and I don't lie.
Maybe the next time you run up a $7,000 bar tab, we can talk about it.
You were a disgrace, Mr. Director.
And so yeah, while we wait to see if there's any sort of fallout from this, let me, 1, know your thoughts, and or 2, you can rank Patel's performance at this hearing. How many Cash Patel Dead Eye Stares out of 5 do you rank him? Also, while you have Congress questioning the decisions and health of our FBI director, we've got people asking questions about the headlines that we're seeing about health disinformation. Right in that, because according to a new major study, prescriptions for ivermectin soared after Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson touted it as an effective cancer treatment. So you've got people saying that it shows how easy it is for influential voices to spread serious medical misinformation to vulnerable people. As far as the specifics, the study was just published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, right, and it's centered on prescriptions for ivermectin and benzimidazole between January and July of 2025. Because in early January of last year, you had Mel Gibson and Joe Rogan having this conversation.
I'll tell you a good story.
Okay.
I have 3 friends. All 3 of them had stage 4 cancer. All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all. And they had some serious stuff
I'll
going
take
on.
back anything. What did they take?
Jesus. They took some, what you've heard they've taken.
Bad I ever said about the Ivermectin,
Rangers.
Fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole, yeah.
That
yeah,
stuff.
I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
There's studies on that now where people have proven that
People
they've
are drinking methylene blue and stuff.
Thanks again.
Yeah, stuff works.
That episode of Joe Rogan, just on YouTube, has over 13 million views. It's also, of course, on other platforms. It was shared on Twitter, Instagram, even more. And actually, this clip even prompted the state of Florida to spend some of its cancer research funding on ivermectin. And while Rogan and Gibson, they mentioned a number of interventions there, both the public in general. And the study focused on the 2 things that we're talking about today. Right, with overall prescription rates doubling over the 7 months after the episode aired compared to the same time period the year prior. Increases were also more pronounced among white patients and those in the South. And among cancer patients, prescription rates were over 2.5 times higher. But one of the things is there's currently not a lot of actual evidence suggesting that ivermectin is beneficial as a cancer treatment. Now, animal studies on both drugs, they've shown that they could inhibit tumor growth, and the National Cancer Institute is looking into ivermectin's ability specifically to treat cancer, but there haven't actually been any clinical trials showing that they're safe or effective in humans. And so with that in mind, you had one doctor telling the New York Times that tons of medications, they might look promising in a preclinical phase, but then we put those drugs in human clinical trials, and the vast majority of the time, greater than 90% of the time, these medications don't seem to either benefit patients or don't seem to be safe for patients. So at least right now, we do not have concrete information suggesting that they should be widely used for cancer patients. And in fact, you have many saying that these drugs could potentially be harmful. Or with that doctor, for example, further explaining that even though they might work in mice at high doses, it could be toxic to humans or even interfere with already proven cancer treatments. And so until studies show that it actually works, they said, I don't prescribe it and I don't recommend physicians prescribe it. And you have the study saying that it is especially concerning if cancer patients are delaying or foregoing traditional treatments in favor of these drugs, as they're losing vital time and potentially allowing their illness to get worse. Right? And then you had another doctor adding, I always tell my patients, we are not mice, and anecdotal data of 1 or 2 patients is not proof. Now, with that said, I want to be fair. It is worth noting here that this study did have limitations, or because it was observational, a cause and effect link cannot be definitively made, right? The researchers cannot say with any certainty that Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson directly or solely caused these prescriptions to increase. And even though the rates of use substantially increased, its use among the general population was still very low. But researchers did note that it still gives some insight into the impacts of celebrity endorsements and the ways which medical misinformation can spread. Because the timing of this prescription spike came after a single podcast episode, and also ivermectin especially has been the center of tons of misinformation. Right, and as you've likely seen, it's kind of been treated as a cure-all wonder drug in many right-wing and Maha circles. It is approved to be used as an anti-parasitic. It's pretty cheap to get, but also you had people using it during COVID despite a lack of evidence. In recent weeks, you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene pushing it for hantavirus. With cancer patients, you had one oncologist saying, with that group specifically, they are especially vulnerable to misinformation, saying there's this perfect storm of fear, urgency, uncertainty, information overload, and then this desperate need for hope. When somebody's offering you a magic cure for something and they give you anecdotal examples, it can feel very hopeful. We're also at a time primed for people to trust the wrong sources. Even the study itself notes that the influence of celebrities, podcasters, and more gained traction as institutional trust erodes. And that institutional trust has been eroded for reasons rightly and wrong. And given that a lot of the top voices are kind of just professional contrarians, that can get dangerous pretty fast, especially as time and time again, we see a lot of these sources being prone to misinformation with very real consequences. There's previous research showing that cancer patients who use alternative medicine are at an increased risk of death compared to those who get standard medical care. And understand that a lot of what I'm talking about is not to just take everything from official sources at face value 100% of the time in every aspect of your life, but it is more, if you are going to be skeptical of everything, at least at a semi-close level. And with Joe Rogan specifically, even though we only get these quotes out of him usually when he realizes he said something super fucked up, he has literally said, quote, I'm not a doctor, I'm a fucking moron, as well as I'm not a respected source of information, even for me. So if you're gonna listen to Joe Rogan, listen to all of Joe Rogan. And that also goes for everyone, not just Joe Rogan. And then there's more we're going to dive into in just a minute, but first let me thank a sponsor and say, I think most people don't need more motivation, they need clarity, because you can work incredibly hard and still be running in the wrong direction. The thing that nobody tells you is that the most successful people in the world, they don't figure it out alone. They've got mentors, coaches, people in their corner providing guidance, sounding. And that's what today's sponsor, Strawberry.me, is doing for thousands of people every week. Lots of us, we wake up every day knowing that we're capable of more, but have no idea how to get there. And I was skeptical about career coaching, but having someone cut through the noise and focus on your situation, huge for me. It definitely starts with clarity, figuring out what you actually want, not what you think you're supposed to want. Then you identify the real obstacles and the blind spots that you can't see on your own. And finally, you build a clear plan instead of waiting for the right moment to magically show up. And whether you want a new job, a promotion, or a full career pivot, there's a roadmap, and you've got a dedicated coach supporting you the whole way. So hey, scan that QR code on the screen or go to strawberry.me/DeFranco to get 50% off your first session. That's strawberry.me/DeFranco. I think you'll love it. But then, diving right back into the news, the number of the day today, at least for this second block, is 10,000, because that is the number of times that federal judges have ruled against detentions carried out by ICE under the second Trump administration. That's what this new analysis by Politico found. And these cases include things like a nursing mom who was detained despite active refugee status. But it also includes a case of another mom separated from her 1-year-old child and released only after her son ended up in the hospital. And they include situations like parents of American service members, victims of human trafficking, and a 5-year-old boy who was taken into custody on his way home from school. And overall, these more than 10,000 rulings against Trump, they reportedly amount to around 90% of the rulings involving ICE detention since the administration upended long-standing practice with a policy shift last July. Because you see, federal law technically requires the detention of people who are seeking admission to the country. The previous administrations interpreted that as applying for the most part to people apprehended at the border. But last year, acting ICE Director Todd Lyons said in an agency-wide memo that anyone who had entered the country illegally would be seen as seeking admission. And that meant that millions of immigrants, including some who have lived in the United States for years, became subject to mandatory detention without the opportunity for bond. And that's apparently been the driving force behind a flood of lawsuits that's been overwhelming both federal judges and lawyers in the administration, especially as ICE has either defied or tried to get around a lot of rulings against the agency, including by moving detainees to a new state, which just leads to even more lawsuits. With a volume of cases, the consistency of rulings against the White House, it really stands out. It's why you have Politico describing the trend as a staggering rejection of a core piece of Trump's immigration agenda, and adding, Trump's unprecedented detention policy, which is almost certainly headed to the Supreme Court, infuriated lower courts in ways no other modern issue has. And many of these judges, they have not held back in their opinions. One bluntly describing the administration's approach as beyond the reach of ordinary legal description and as an assault on the constitutional order. Meanwhile, others have voiced concern about the specific tactics employed by ICE in their pursuit of mass detention and deportation. Tactics including arresting people dropping off their kids at school, detaining people in courthouses after immigration hearings and in ICE offices after routine check-ins, and executing after-the-fact warrants to try and justify arrests that may have otherwise been unlawful. You had one judge noting that despite hundreds of similar rulings in this and other courts resoundingly in favor of the ICE detainee petitioners, ICE continues to act contrary to the law, to spend taxpayer money needlessly, and to waste the scarce resources of the judiciary. And some judges, including one that ruled against the administration 90 times, they've actually compared their work to the Greek myths of Heracles having to slay the Hydra or Sisyphus having to push a boulder uphill for eternity. Though also, just to be clear, it is not a few judges that are handling a bulk of these cases. Because while it's true, some have heard more cases than others, more than 425 judges in total have ruled against the administration at least once. And a huge key thing is that includes even a majority of judges appointed by Donald Trump himself. Right? One of those Trump appointees actually wrote in his ruling, "This isn't how things are supposed to work in America. Unquestionably, the laws of human decency condemn such villainy." But despite all that, including losses from Trump judges, you had Trump officials blaming the administration's losses on the left and their activist proxies on the judiciary. And with that, also predicting that the administration will win at the Supreme Court level. Though notably, there in dozens of cases, the department's actually admitted that it had no defense for the administration's actions. Even still, and this just speaks to how fucked things are right now, it is true that the Supreme Court could eventually end up on the side of the White House. In fact, two federal appeals courts, the Fifth Circuit and Eighth Circuit, have already ruled in favor of the administration's position. But notably, three others, the Second Circuit, the 11th Circuit, and the Sixth Circuit, have ruled against the administration. So we're kind of just stuck having to wait to see where these cases go. But also, in the meantime, this is just one way that the agency's actions have been, or it may be, on the wrong side of the law. Because there are also concerns about the legality of ICE's tactics and use of force against protesters and immigrants, including during operations and in detention facilities. And on the subject of detention, the agency has faced numerous allegations about overcrowding, unsanitary, and generally inadequate conditions at its facilities, which may also be connected to the fact that ICE recently reported its 18th detainee death in 4 months, putting the agency on track for a new record. And while that's going on, the agency's been throwing up roadblocks in front of members of Congress hoping to inspect facilities. Just this last Friday, you had an appeals court actually denying the administration's request to revive its policy requiring members of Congress to give 7 days notice before visiting ICE detention centers, which had been struck down in February. But now it's implementing new rules demanding that lawmakers identify specific detainees that they want to speak with by name at least 2 business days in advance and produce a signed consent form from each individual. So you actually had California Representative Mike Levin saying that he and his colleague Sarah Jacobs learned about this new policy when they made a surprise visit to a facility in San Diego and they weren't allowed to speak with detainees. Them also posting a photo of an ICE memo signed by Lyons and dated the same day as the visit, which claimed that the number of ICE visits from Congress had skyrocketed under Trump, and adding, "These visits are disruptive and resource intensive because they pull staff away from law enforcement duties and security posts." But then Levin responding, "The volume Lyons is citing is a direct consequence of his own department dismantling all the alternatives. They gutted the internal oversight and then complained that the external oversight is too active, then issued a memo to restrict it. All of that only makes sense if the goal is no oversight." And ultimately, we had to talk about this today because while ICE seems to be in the spotlight a lot less because all the other shit, it may also be part of the reason the other shit is happening. And it definitely doesn't mean that the horrible stuff that so many judges have taken issue with have stopped happening. And then, while we're seeing his immigration strategy play out, Trump is also in the middle of a major international trip and just arrived in China like a king, walking down a red carpet to a weirdly choreographed welcome by local students, flanked by as many manservants, including Elon Musk and his ward Eric Trump. And while there's talk about lucrative trade deals possibly there, you have critics accusing him of bailing out yet another campaign promise and working to secure deals with billionaires that got him elected. Right? Because when Trump ran for president again in 2024, he promised the American people a massive economic crackdown on China that would hit the country harder than any other trade partner. But then those ambitions, they completely backfired after China responded to Trump's tariffs by cutting off the supply of rare earth minerals that American companies rely on for basically everything from electronics and cars to weapons. So then, rather than tanking the US economy for how he was leading things and starting an even bigger trade war, Trump reached a tentative truce with Xi last fall, where he agreed to back down from his highest tariffs, and in exchange, China agreed to continue exporting rare earth elements to the US. So instead of taking a hard line on China like he promised, Trump's goal during his current visit is to just keep the relationship stable after starting a war with one of China's closest trading partners in the Middle East. All while soaking up the majesty of an authoritarian state visit hosted by a strongman leader. Now, as far as the specifics of what's on the table in this summit, the number one issue by far is trade, but also analysts say that expectations for any major outcomes are pretty limited. The tariffs will certainly be one of the biggest discussion points, with both sides hoping to extend the shaky trade truce that they reached this past fall. China will also likely push to loosen export controls on U.S. technology, including advanced semiconductors. Meanwhile, you have the U.S. hoping to secure Chinese investment in certain U.S. products, with a lot of the talk there being around the purchase of additional soybeans, beef, Boeing airplanes, potentially other farm goods. And U.S. officials have said that the president plans to discuss the possibility of creating a, quote, U.S.-China Board of Trade that would oversee agreed purchases and manage the bilateral trade relationship. Some also speculating that they might agree to create a council to have further conversations about AI. But then also, beyond trade and economic issues, the two leaders are expected to discuss some incredibly important geopolitical topics. It's been widely reported that Xi's going to press Trump on Taiwan. It's a self-governing territory, but of course China has long claimed it as its own, which of course has been one of the biggest single points of contention in U.S.-China relations. The U.S. sends Taiwan tons of weapons and considers it a crucial ally that's absolutely essential to U.S. security interests in the region. But more recently, Trump's floated the possibility that the U.S. will stop selling arms to Taiwan, an idea that China obviously would fucking love. And the timing here is very significant because Trump's war has diverted key military assets from Asia while also depleting U.S. munitions. And that's raised doubts among Chinese analysts about America's ability to defend Taiwan. And then, of course, Iran is likely going to be a big discussion point. Like I mentioned earlier, Iran is one of China's closest trade partners in the Middle East, and like the rest of Asia, it's been heavily impacted by the global energy crisis that resulted from Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And it's also widely believed that China's selling weapons to Iran, which is an assessment that's reportedly backed up by U.S. intelligence. But then at the same time, China's also credited with helping to push Iran to accept Trump's initial ceasefire, the same one that he now says is on life support. And you've got some analysts predicting that he's going to ask China to help pressure Iran to reopen the strait and reach a deal to end the war. But there, I'll say it's unclear if that would be successful because China has offered limited help in a war that it sees as, Trump's own problem. And actually, on the note of all of us being stuck in a war of Trump's own making, here's what our dear president had to say to the American people who are suffering because of this war.
When you're negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about American financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
Democratic campaign strategists are sending edible arrangements to the White House for the ability to be able to use that line in an election year. But going back to Trump and China, we then also have to talk about the tech bro of it all. But as I mentioned, Trump arrived in China alongside some of the biggest tech and finance billionaires, including Elon Musk, Tim Cook of Apple, the CEO of NVIDIA, as well as over a dozen other top leaders from the defense and banking industries. And of course, Eric was also there. And as far as why they showed up, it was for a few reasons. Some of them, like Musk and Cook, they have economic ties in China and good relationships there, or the idea being that they can provide a key diplomatic bridge for Trump, but also there's potentially something big in it for them, right? Securing major business advantages. And Trump himself has made it clear that that is at least part of the aim here, writing in a post on Truth Social. So we'll be asking President Xi, a leader of extraordinary distinction, to open up China so that these brilliant people can work their magic and help bring the People's Republic to an even higher level. So he's saying that he wants to create a path for these billionaires to do business in China, which I'm sure is going to be incredibly profitable for all of them and ingratiate them to Trump even more. But also what we've seen with this trip is that it's created backlash from both sides, where you have Republicans and Democrats in the House writing letters warning Trump against any deal that would give China a bigger manufacturing foothold in the United States. You also saw a lot of people from all over the political spectrum criticizing Trump for bringing his billionaire boyfriends to get rich in China, while also openly saying that he doesn't think about how his war is hurting average Americans. For example, former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene accusing Trump of going to China with the oligarchy corporate elites to sell out America to China, also while slamming him for getting the U.S. drawn into an expensive foreign war. But as far as how the visit goes, do we see trade deals? Are there big statements? Will they braid each other's hair and eat pizza? We'll have to wait and see. And then we've got even more that we got to dive into today. But first, let me take a minute to thank the sponsor and say, adulting is realizing that some things, they just do not get easier when you ignore them. They just get more expensive. If you have kids or just people depending on you, one of the big ones is definitely life insurance. Well, not fun or exciting. It is extremely important. I'm starting to get at the age where I have the very real question of, if I'm not here, is my family taken care of? And that's why today's sponsor, Fabric, is worth paying attention to. Fabric by Life is term life insurance that you can get done today. It's made for busy parents like a lot of you, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. Because the reality is, life feels stable until it doesn't, though often it doesn't feel stable most times. But again, if you've got kids or people that depend on you, the I'll get to it later thing, it's not cutting it. Having kids, especially if you are young and healthy, now's the best time to lock in lower life insurance rates for long-term protection. This can genuinely take a huge thing off your plate without turning it into some giant stressful process. And there's no gotcha feeling either. They offer a 30-day money-back guarantee and you can cancel anytime. So hey, join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. You can apply today in just minutes. Just scan that QR code or go to meetfabric.com/DeFranco. That's MEET fabric.com/DeFranco. And then for the final story of the day, we got to talk about why a Republican state senator just stood on the floor of the South Carolina Senate for 45 minutes and killed Donald Trump's plan to redraw the state's congressional maps. Because he is not a moderate, he's definitely not a Democrat. He actually helped Republicans gerrymander South Carolina in 2021. And as it turns out, his stated reasons for blocking Trump is that the new map would have driven up black turnout in November. So it's one of the weirdest moments in the redistricting war so far. So some broader context here. Republicans, by almost every measure, have won the redistricting war of the last 6 months. Virginia's redistricting referendum was killed in court. The Supreme Court gutted Section 2 with the Voting Rights Act. We just covered earlier this week SCOTUS clearing Alabama to revert to a previously discriminatory map 7 days before its primary. Tennessee just split Memphis into 3 pieces, and Florida and Missouri are running similar plays. So South Carolina, it was the next target on Trump's list. And the goal was to redraw the state's 7 congressional districts to take out the only Democratic seat currently held by 17-term incumbent James Clyburn. And when Clyburn was first elected in 1993, he was the first black member of Congress from South Carolina since Reconstruction. And one of the big things we saw is that Trump leaned into all of this personally. He posted on Truth Social that he was counting on South Carolina's elected leaders to level the playing field. Right, those were his words, not the reality. He also told them to be bold and courageous. He personally called Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey to make sure that the vote went through. And then, in front of the Senate, Massey said no, with Massey speaking for over 45 minutes on the floor of the South Carolina Senate. And the speech is unusual not just for what it killed, but for what it openly said. And remember, you're gonna have to wait to the end to take everything in as a whole.
Too many people in power just want to do whatever it takes to stay in power. They'll do whatever it takes to keep it. But I ask, to what end? What do you do with it when you've attained it?
Right, so that appears to be a Republican Senate Majority Leader in the middle of his own party's national redistricting push, asking the question out loud about his own side.
I cannot in good conscience surrender this authority that has been preserved to, for, and by the states and merely take orders from those who are not in South Carolina.
He also talked at length about federalism and the separation of state legislative power from federal pressure. He also reportedly went so far as to compare his current stand to South Carolina's history as state resistance, and that including what was described as awkwardly invoking Civil War history. Right, South Carolina was actually the first state to secede from the Union. So when Massey says he has too much Southern blood and too much resistance in his heritage to give in, he's making a comparison that many South Carolinians will read one way and many others on the outside are going to read another. But then Massey's biggest argument against redrawing the map, it had kind of 3 legs. The first is what's called the dummy mander problem, right? The idea that when you spread out one party's voters too thin to flip an extra district, you might actually flip other safer districts that are at least safe right now. Or with South Carolina Republicans currently holding 6 to 7 House seats.
If we start tinkering with this, my concern is that we can make this a whole lot worse.
The second's then constituency, with Massey arguing that breaking up Clyburn's district, which covers a wide swath of majority black communities in South Carolina, it would split up the federal policy coalition that the state has historically relied on. Like voters in his district, they've spent decades organizing around federal policy priorities together. Splitting them up, it dilutes their effectiveness, including, he argued, for South Carolina as a whole. But then that brings us to the third leg, with Massey saying on the record in his own speech,
I also think that one of the side effects of this is, very candidly, you're going to motivate black turnout, and there will be repercussions for that. There will be down ballot repercussions for that.
Which is definitely something I expected him to say in back rooms, but not openly on camera. Or he is openly telling his colleagues that one of the reasons he opposes this map is that it's going to energize black people to vote and show up, that it would hurt Republican prospects down ballot. Not because he cares about his constituents who are black people, but because it would lead to more black people voting. And it is so important that we highlight that, because you can't give Massey credit for the federalism part without naming the explicit voter suppression logic in the same speech. Because understand, when you take Massey in as a whole, he is not a hero of voting rights. He helped Republicans redraw South Carolina's map in 2021 to give the GOP an advantage. And so all the other stuff that he's talking about, it's just window dressing for what's really naked partisan calculation. And again, this is nowhere near the end of what this whole mess is. For one, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is already gearing up to announce a special session on the new maps this week. But I mean, even today, as I was recording this story, it was reported that Georgia Governor Kemp called a special session to redraw 2028 maps. And so that's another important aspect of this. We have to think about what's happening with 2026 and 2028. Both matter, but at different levels right now. But that, my friends, you beautiful bastards, is the end of today's show, unless you want to dive into the deep end with me. Because we did something a little bit different with today's brand new episode of Crashing Out, which is live over on that channel. Links in the description, and on YouTube, you're going to be able to even click or tap the screen if you want to select something there. But we did a tier list that made me very uncomfortable, which for some reason is something that you guys love to see. But really, whatever you do, let me just say thank you for watching. I love yo faces, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Oh God, this is the episode where Alex is like, I think I'm fine taking on ops.
I created a tier list, all right? That's what I did. I created a tier list.
Miss Rachel's going like, subscribe, commented.
I am gonna put John Fetterman under blocking mutuals.
I was like, what's like your news diet? And he's like, you know, just like people that I trust, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool. I was like, oh my God. It's a dumb question if we are comparing MTG and AOC.
If you're on stage with Marjorie Taylor Greene, congratulations. You're a f***ing bigot. Too much? Did I go too hard?
I might cancel today's show.
New episodes every Wednesday.
Well, for many of us, the idea of white supremacy is something that exists in history books. It might be dismissed as something that could happen in other places, in different times. Groups of neo-Nazis consider the Northwest home, and their message never seems to change with time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want people to know about my nephew. He is a man of character, integrity. He's just full of life.
There was a time in the late 1980s and early 1990s when this neighborhood was a center for racist skinheads. So to talk more about the history of hate crimes, we will have our next guest presenter, Dr. Randall Blazak. Randall.
Thank you, Shile. In November 1988, there was this intersection of three stories. The story of an Ethiopian immigrant, the rise of this new hate group, Eastside White Pride, and this white supremacist group, Tom Metzger's White Aryan Resistance. And it all came together and ended in the death of Mulugeta Surah. It all happens right in the spot where I'm standing. Mulugeta, who's trying to stop the fight, has his back to Miski, and that's when he's struck by the baseball bat.
The crime took place here on Southeast 31st early Sunday morning. 3 black men, all from Ethiopia, were sitting in this car talking. When one left to head for his apartment, another car pulled up. 3 young white men jumped out and began beating him. Police say Miski, Brewster, and Strasser are members of East Side White Pride, the most violent group of skinheads in Portland.
Just less than a year or two before his death, we'd offer Exhibit 48.
I saw it as a central event from which many things radiated out. As individual death becomes an opportunity to talk about many aspects of Oregon history, of American history, of the white supremacist movement.
There started becoming a large anti-racist movement in Portland after Mulugeta Surah, and that is still here today.
Wow, Mulugeta Surah. His name lives forever here. I really appreciate for the people who did this to honor him and his name, his memory. Mulugeta contacted me when I was here in Portland, studying sociology in Portland State University. I want to go back to Ethiopia, but at that time the country was in a really bad situation, civil war.
Your ship is way bigger than Dad's. Is there a way to go faster than the speed of light? And none of that grav tech cheating?
Autopilot engaged.
You keep installing new cool things in your ship. It's like Christmas every day.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.
Oh, my day just got a whole lot brighter.
I'm up for a little adventure.
Approaching Stargate.
Home, the family told me it's not safe for you.
Autopilot jumping. Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.